Hi, Team 3. So, a couple things. First, I want to say I feel like your team is pretty small, and that's part of this. But the other thing is, like, you guys really need to be in here and in here and in here several times during the week to kind of facilitate this communication between one another. Okay, so let's work on being in here a little bit more often and really work on asking those probing questions. Okay, so one of the things that you guys were kind of talking about here. Aspen, you were talking about like the ethical issues, which I think is really interesting. Whenever I read your ideas here, because you were talking about how, obviously we need to keep confidentiality as an important part of, any study. And then you were also talking about the right to self-esteem, and it sort of made me think like sometimes these things collide, right? Like if we publish a study on Hispanic youth, one of the things that is really interesting, when we publish that study, we're already kind of identifying the participants. So my question for you guys is, can the right to privacy or the right to self-esteem interfere with that privacy? So think about that. And then Sarah, I like the idea that you were talking about Freudian theory being sort of obsolete, which is entirely true, right? Like nobody is like a full-on Freudian theorist, right? But you are absolutely right. I think Freud is actually the forerunner on child development because he's the first one who thought, hey, things that happen in our childhood can have an effect on our adult behavior and our adult functioning. So good call on you. And then everybody was kind of talking about how important sort of that contextual theory is, or that contextual perspective is, that it's not just cognitive, it's not just social, but there's all of these complicated things that really are involved in child development. So it's really, I like that you guys are all kind of talking about that, and all kind of, albeit very differently in whatever perspective it is, but you guys are all talking about how, really you can't say this one is the one or that one is the one. And it's really, you guys are understanding that the idea of child development is very complex, and the ideas are in fact complex and difficult. So you guys are doing a good job. Let's get in there and talk a little bit more throughout the week.